Hello and welcome to this webinar on getting to grips with tasks in Intella. My name is John Pearce and I'll be presenting this webinar today. So just a bit about my background. I've been involved with computer forensics and electronic discovery for approximately 13 years. Initially worked for the New Zealand Police as a digital forensic analyst, and then I moved to the corporate sector and worked in forensic technology for Deloitte New Zealand. I've been a user of Intella since 2008 and I have run many cases in Intella over this time. As previously mentioned, in other webinars we aim to run 2 webinars per month, so keep an eye on the found forums to see what is coming up. This webinar, or the webinars, go into more details about features or workflows when using Intella, Connect or our forensic tool W4. We also have guest speakers who will provide insight into other topics as well. Before we get started, let's look at what we have coming up. On March 17, we have Damien Atoll from Spider Forensics giving a presentation on how email reading works. If you have not done so already, you can register for this webinar after this call. For today, we'll be looking at setting up and using tasks in Intella. For clarity, we have muted everyone's microphone. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat area and we'll cover them off at the end of the presentation. So what are tasks? Well, tasks are used by the user so that they can automate functions for processing and workflows in Intella and Intella Connect. As an example, a user can set up separate tasks, one to search the case using a keyword list. Then from those results, they could set up a task to deduplicate those respondent items. And then from those respondent items, they can then set up a task to tag those deduplicated items. So in that workflow, there are 3 separate tasks that are created, but the 3 tasks can all be run sequentially, basically run after each other in that order. And you do have the option to change the orders as well. This sort of presentation is probably best suited for a demonstration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up Intella and we'll go through the task feature in Intella. So tasks can be configured when adding a new source to a case. And this is done in the second to last screen of the Add Source wizard. So let's go ahead and do that. Go add new, we have file or folder. I've got a folder here that we'll add in, and I'll just use the default settings as we go through here, leaving all this as default. And this is the second to last page here. So this is where we can set up tasks when we're adding a new source to a case. And there's two types of tasks in the screen. So the first one is we can configure the custodians. That's using the button down the bottom here. And in this particular case, what I've done is I have a main folder for the company name. In this case, it's Bob's Farming Supplies. And then I have data for 4 custodians, and I've created separate folders for those 4 custodians and put their data that came from their systems into those folders. And what Intella will do is it'll go and look at those folder names and it will create the custodian name based on those folder names. So I mean, I've just used the first names here, but you could use first and second names or whatever suits your case. So once that's set, we can go close. And we see down the bottom here that we now have 4 custodian tasks defined. So they will run once we get to the next screen and finish off the indexing. So that's the custodian side. And we can also create custom tasks as well. I have some already on the list here. We'll talk about these a little bit later on. But basically, we can create a custom task by clicking on the New button. We type in a name for the task, and I'm going to call this keyword search. And basically once you've got the name in there, there's 3 steps to go through here. So step 1 is basically asking what data do you want to start with to do the next tasks here, step 2 and 3. And that could be data that you already have set up in a tag, or it might be data that you don't have in a tag and you want to go and find that data first. So if we drop down the little drop down here, most of these, we don't have the data and we want to go and find it. So it could be a simple keyword search, could be a keyword list, an MD5 list, maybe a save search, a date range, or you might have the data already tagged up and you would use a tag. So that'll be your starting tag that you would have all those items already pre-selected and you want to work on those. Or it could be to identify OCR candidates for some OCR tasks that you want to run overnight because maybe there's a lot of items and that's going to take some time. In this example, we'll just go with a simple keyword search and I'll just type hello in here. If you're using keyword lists and keyword searches for the starting task, you get the option, these are the same filters that you can use that are showing up here in the standard search box in the top left. So we're going to leave all those the same. So once we run this first part and it brings back a bunch of items, then we can actually run step 2, which is refine that item set. And there's some options in here. So we can deduplicate those results, we can suppress the irrelevant items, or we can go and find the parent and child or child items for those results. So this example, we'll just leave this as deduplicate the results. And then lastly, step 3 is, well, now what do you want us to do with those items that will come back and from the searches and have been deduplicated? And in most cases, you'll tag the items, but there are a bunch of options in here as well. So we can set custodian, we can export the items, we can OCR the items, we can do some email threading, we can generate custom IDs, a whole bunch of different options there. In this small example, we'll just tag the items. And in fact, I'm just going to copy the name for the task and put it down as a tag. And that's as simple as it gets, really. And in each of these steps, you can actually add more things. So if we wanted to deduplicate the results and we wanted to remove the irrelevant items, we could do, add an extra level in there and do that. And you can do that in all of these steps with this add button down the side. In this case, we'll just remove that one for this example. And then we click on OK, and our task is now in the list and it's enabled as well. So it's enabled by default. And then basically what we can do is go next. So remember, we're still in the add new source wizard. So we go next, we need to finish that off. And do you want to index the source now? Yes, we'll do that. Now this is a small source, so this won't take long to do the indexing process. And now we're into the post-processing steps, and that's almost pretty much done. All right, so now that indexing is done, the tasks get processed after the indexing. And then you get your standard tabs down the bottom here, your speeds and your unique items per type, but you also get a tasks tab as well. And we can see here that our tasks that we set up to set the custodian for our 4 users, so that was all done. And also our custom task for our search was done as well. We click on finish, and let's go and have a look what that looks like. So in the location, I can see that my folder has been ingested into the case, so that's all good. I can go to the tags facet, and I can see that my search was run, and I have those items tagged now. And there are the items there. And if I go to the custodian facet, I can see that custodians have been set for all of those sources, and the items that were in those folders have been assigned to the custodians as well. So that's sort of a basic example of how to create a task and to set the custodians. And setting custodians is only in the Add Source Wizard, in the task feature of the Add Source Wizard. But what if we want to add some tasks but not index any data? Well, tasks can be added at any time during a case, and you do that by going to File, Tasks, and you get the task wizard come up again. You'll notice here there is no Add Custodian because we're not actually ingesting a data source. So I'm just going to disable the one that we created earlier, and I'll talk about these tasks here. So running a simple keyword search as a task is probably something that won't be done because you just run your keyword up here in the search box at the top left, but tasks will be used in sort of more complex scenarios. And what I've done here is I've sort of quickly put together some steps you'd use for getting some data ready for e-discovery. And basically, we'll go through each one, but basically what I'm doing is I'm using a keyword list, I'm getting the results and finding the parents, I'm deduping those parents, I'm bringing back the children, I put those parent and child items together, and then I export it out into a relativity load file. So let me turn on these so that we can run it. And I'm not going to turn on this number 6 option here where we're going to export the items out because I think the search brings back quite a few items and would spend about maybe 20 minutes watching it export items, which is probably not going to be much fun. But we can run it and I'll show you what this looks like. Before we do that, I'll go in and we'll just explain about each step. So I can click on the first task, go into edit. We have a task name. This one here is a keyword list, and this is the keyword list that I have set up. And I'm not refining any other options here, and I'm just going straight into tagging this item in a tag. So it's kind of a simple task. For task 2, I'm starting with that tag that I set up in task 1, and then I'm going to go identify the parents, the top level parents, with this option here selected as well, and then I'm going to tag those items as show parents or parent items. In task 3, I start with the parent items, I deduplicate the results and create a tag of those deduplicated parents. And you can sort of see how this sort of trends through. After that, we start with the deduplicated parents. I want to find all the children, and you could even ignore folders here, get rid of those, but we do deal with the folders later anyway. And then I'm going to tag those items into another tag, show children. And then this one here is a little bit different. So this one here, I've actually used a save search instead. And my save search is, let's just close that. Under here, so I have a save search of going to go get those 2 tags, the parent tags, the deduplicated parent tags, and the show children tags, and run a search, and then we can combine all those items together. So that was that one there. So I've used that save search, and also I've put a refinement in here where we're going to suppress the irrelevant items, and then we're going to tag these as parent and children. And finally, in step 6, which we're not actually going to run, but let's have a look at it anyway, is start with those parent and children tags, so all the items in there, and then we're going to export them, and we're going to use the export template, which I have already set up here. All right, so you'll also notice that in this wizard here, we don't have the custodians, but we do have this this run and run all buttons down the bottom. So we don't get that in the add source wizard because everything gets run that's enabled gets run when you finish the add source wizard process. But here, when we're doing tasks outside of the add source wizard, we can actually run them. So we've got our first 5 selected, enabled, and let's run those. All right, and that's all done. Looks like there are no errors there. We can close that off, and let's go and have a look how that came out. So under tags, now I have a new tag called eDiscovery filter. And in here I have the items. So the hits for, or respondent items for our keyword list that I ran. Then I go up and find the parents, and then I go and dedupe those parents. Then I find the children from those deduped parents, and then I add those together. And of course, if we had step 6 or our 6th task set as enabled, we would have exported those items out to that relativity load file as well. So that gives you a bit more of an idea how tasks will be used in Intella, more for those more complex bunch of steps that need to be done. Then you can set up tasks to automate those workflows. And you'd probably have these tasks all set up so that you could run them maybe at the end of the day. If they're processes that take a long time, they'll be all run at the end of the day, and then you'll have your results when you get back into work in the morning. There's no questions there, so I'd like to thank everyone for attending the webinar today.